Spintires. So I purposely didn't want to research this game a ton. I've only seen you play a little bit of this game.
Right.
It seems fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Trials a little bit. That just got Trials at a very, very, very slow pace, but still looks fun. People are captivated by this game. What is Spintires?
It is weird. It should not be enjoyable. It's like it's even hard to say, like, am I having fun or am I just obsessed with it?
Same, just like Trials.
Yeah,
you hit that wall.
Trials, so you definitely can have some fun and screw around and show off. But this is like, yeah, it's very much just like, yeah, can you conquer this? I mean, I put probably almost 10 hours into it now, and I've not actually completed a map yet. But that's because, like, as I've been learning more, it's been one of these things. Well, let me try this out now. You know, like, I could do this the easy way and go with what I know, but let me try something different. But to be like a little bit on a simpler level, basically, this game is all about getting stuck in the mud. And your task is fairly simple. Like, you go from a garage to a lumber site, pick up lumber, and you deliver it. And you have to deliver so much lumber to, basically complete your objective. But along the way, you get stuck in the mud a lot. And you kind of have to figure out your route to get from point A to point B, and experiment. And sometimes, it's like, okay, you have to judge, like, do I go on the high ground where there's a bunch of rocks, or do I try to go through this puddle? I don't know how deep the puddle is.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot. You got surprised, like there would be something that didn't seem that deep, and then all of a sudden you would just kind of sink into it.
Actually,
were there lots of insta fails? Like,
I got an. Not really insta fails, but I got an accidental achievement once because I actually went completely under the water without stalling out, and I came out the other side, and it was a diver achievement.
What did you play this on, just for reference?
Oh, it's only on PC as far as I know.
Oh, okay. But they had the in-game achievements.
Yeah, but it's really cool in terms of, like, the terrain deformation. I saw this technology back with 2007 or 2008 with, like, a Sega Rally game, and it was clear to me back then that, like, this is going to be really cool, but it's still very early, and now it's come into its own. I mean, visually, it's still not perfect. Like, you see, like, a lot of, like, shifting polygon type things, or, like, like the center of your truck will just kind of go through, the mud or whatever while the wheels spin through it. But it's still very cool and impressive technology.
Yeah. Do you think this is a type of game where they were like, we want to make terrain deformation of the future, or did they just want to make a fun and interesting, certainly unusual?
Yeah. Well, I actually looked up some of the video of the real thing, and it's definitely hardcore stuff dealing with thawing permafrost in Siberia. It's very specific region and things you have to worry about.
Like, for sport, or these loggers, or these guys?
No, these are real truckers. Yeah. But in terms of the game, it's really interesting to, like, have to deal with, like, all of these different factors of it's like, okay, now I know what it means to, like, lock the differential, and, and, like, the difference between, like, all-wheel drive and not having all-wheel drive engaged, and you have to play with those things a lot to kind of wiggle your way out of the mud, and you can spend 20 or 30 minutes in, like, a freaking rut, just barely inching forward, and it's like, as long as you're still inching forward, it's like, okay, I can handle this, I can get out. And then again, like, when you're trying to find routes, sometimes cutting through the woods is great. Other times, I've thought, it's like, okay, well, I can go through this pond and go up that hill and make it back to the road, and then no, I get completely bogged down. I run out of fuel, or I, like, flip the truck over off of a hill, and then I completely lose everything I've been carrying.
How big are the areas? Is it?
It's a pretty big area.
It's one big area.
Well, there's several maps. But they're all very huge. And one of the more weird gamey things that they have is they kind of have, like, this fog of war over portion of the map, but it's not like a normal fog of war where if you just go through it, it opens up that part of the map. There's, like, this strange, like, tornado-looking image in the center of that fog of war that you have to drive up to, and then you, like, dispel the whole area.
Oh, okay.
So those are a little out of the way and hard to get to. But then, yeah, as you open up more on the map, and then as you, like, find more vehicles, and then you can put, like, different attachments on certain trucks to where, okay, this truck can repair vehicles, or this truck can fuel vehicles, or this truck can, like, has garage points to unlock another garage on the other side of the map, so you're not going from the same starting point over and over. But like all of that terrain deformation and the ruts and stuff that you make, like as long as you're on the same save file and you haven't completed your objective, like that stuff sticks.
That's cool.
So it gets harder and harder to go out of that lumberyard because you're just making a deeper and deeper hole. And then especially I tried over the weekend, I tried using the big trailer. It's like, it's like, oh, I can do 2 small trips with the smaller truck, or I can just like take it, like finish it off with the big truck. And that was just been a huge pain in the butt because then like you're hauling a trailer, there's so much more weight, and things that seem like they should be that felt like they were simple are now really difficult to get through.
Right. You've played a lot of racing games before. Pace-wise, how is it to play a game like this where you're just not going fast? Isn't that kind of frustrating? It's like you said you put in 10 hours, and that would seem to be kind of like banging your head against the wall.
It's odd because, I mean, after a while, you start to get a sense of frustration, but it's not as frustrating as you would think it would be. Maybe because you're expecting that, like you're expecting to get stuck in the mud, and so that's part of working it out. And you're also learning things, like I said, like you're learning about what you can do. You're learning how all these weird little systems work and things like that.
Have you been chatting with anybody else that's been playing the game?
I haven't really been chatting with anyone. And I think one of the fun things is that like it does like every time you go at a run, like you end up coming up with stories. Like unless you're doing it like the same way twice, like there's a story to that. And so it's like, okay, I'll click those images in Steam and like post them up. It's like, okay, here's 3 images to like encapsulate the madness I just went through. Posted it on my Twitter feed,
Yeah, because it's an interesting play on words, like spinning your wheels. I know it's Spintires, but like spinning your wheels is like usually synonymous with something you don't want to do in video games, and so it's interesting. That's kind of the main selling point.
I mean, there's definitely like there's a lot of physics involved and different factors. I was like pretty surprised when I came across this big open plains area. There was no roads there, but it was actually felt like it was easier to drive across that than to drive across the roads. But that's when I didn't have a load. Then once I came out with a bunch of logs on my truck, it starts sinking in, and it's like, oh no, how am I gonna get out of this? But it's and comparing it to another driving game is not even it's a whole nother can of worms. Like you're thinking about inclines and weight, and making sure you don't tip over, and trying to keep your speed up so you don't fall into a hole. But then sometimes you just don't know what's coming. Sometimes going through a puddle is way easier than going up a hill or through a bunch of rocks or something. Yeah.
So you haven't finished Spintires. Are you going to finish Spintires? How much more time are you going to spend on Spintires?
I don't know how much more time I'll spend on it. And then, who knows what else they'll keep working on,
that'll be my question. Is it an early state? Or are they going to...
I mean, there's not a lot of maps, but like I said, it takes a long time to get through one map, just to try to do everything. And then there's like a hardcore mode. I know that there's like you can play together with other people online, which I feel like some of those trucks, like that's made for cooperating with somebody. Like having a repair truck doesn't do you any good because it's not like you can just like swap to another truck on the map. You have to be close to a truck to swap trucks. And then there's there's a crane, so that like learning the crane controls to like pick up dropped logs is like another thing to learn. It's just, I think it's one of those things where it's a learning process, and that's kind of what's fun about it.
Yeah, it's an unusual game, and it's time for it. It's fun to play with physics. We had to get your hands dirty, Blood, but I appreciate you checking out Spintires. And if you haven't checked it out, you did a stream as well, so you can watch that on the side.
Check that out.
Thanks, man.